Junior Patrol Officer Zelak Wren was having the most boring shift of his entire career aboard the Galactic Unity vessel Starweaver. He slouched in his chair, his 4 eyes half closed as he monitored the sensor readings of their routine patrol route along the outer rim. His purple skin had taken on a slightly grayer hue from sheer boredom. By the 7 moons, if I have to stare at one more empty quadrant reading, I'm going to molt prematurely, he muttered to himself, absent-mindedly adjusting one of his antennae. The soft blue glow of the holographic displays cast strange shadows across his face as he yawned, revealing rows of perfectly maintained teeth, a point of pride in his species. The Starweaver's bridge was nearly empty during the night cycle. Most of the crew was in their sleep pods, leaving Zelak alone with his thoughts and the gentle hum of the ship's systems. He'd been assigned this graveyard shift as punishment for telling one too many jokes about Captain Naira Voss's ceremonial head crest during the last crew gathering. At least I got a few laughs, he chuckled, remembering the way the captain's scales had turned bright red with annoyance. Worth it. The sensor array chirped suddenly, making Zelak jump in his seat. He straightened up, all 4 eyes now wide open and alert as he examined the readings. What in the name of the void? The signal was unlike anything he'd ever seen before. It didn't match any known signatures in the Galactic Unity database. Not Centauri, not Plutonian, not even those weird gaseous beings from the Crab Nebula. Computer, analyze signal pattern and compare to historical records, Zelak commanded, his heart rate increasing as he watched the data stream across his screen. The computer's response made him laugh out loud. Signal matches theoretical patterns described in ancient legends of human vessels. Humans? Really, Zelak snorted, shaking his head. Computer, run diagnostic on sensor array. Clearly something's malfunctioning. Everyone knew humans were just stories made up to scare younglings. Tales of bizarre bipedal creatures with only 2 eyes and no scales, who supposedly achieved faster than light travel despite their ridiculously short lifespans. Pure fiction. The computer chirped again. Sensor array functioning at 100% efficiency. Signal confirmed. Match probability 99.87%. Zelak's antennae twitched nervously as he stared at the readings. The signal was getting stronger. Whatever it was heading straight for their patrol route. Computer, wake Captain Voss, he said finally, his voice cracking slightly. Tell her we might have a situation that's going to make her forget all about those head crest jokes. As the computer acknowledged his command, Zelak couldn't shake the feeling that his boring shift was about to become anything but. He just hoped he wasn't about to go down in history as the officer who cried human. Captain Naira Voss burst onto the bridge, her ceremonial head crest still slightly crooked from sleep. Her orange scales shimmered under the emergency lights as she marched straight to Zelak's station. Officer Wren, this better be good. I was having the most wonderful dream about demoting you to waste management. Captain, look at these readings, Zelak said, gesturing at his display. The computer says it's, well, you are not going to believe this. Try me, her 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the data. It claims the signal matches human specifications. The bridge fell silent. Then Captain Voss did something Zelak had never seen before. She laughed. Not her usual controlled chuckle, but a full-bodied laugh that made her head crest wobble. Humans? Next, you will tell me you have spotted the ghost ships of Rigel or the dancing lights of Proxima. She wiped tears from her lower eyes. Officer Wren, your sense of humor is going to be the death of your career. The ship's computer chirped again. Signal strength increasing. Visual contact possible in approximately 47 minutes. Captain Voss's laughter died instantly. Wake the senior staff. Now. Within minutes, the bridge was fully staffed. Science Officer Kelp Tin, a tall, spindly being with translucent skin that showed his nervous system firing rapidly, hunched over the sensor readings. Communications Specialist Raya Sen, her bioluminescent spots pulsing with excitement, worked frantically at her station. Captain Kelp said, his voice trembling, these readings are impossible. The vessel's hull composition doesn't match any known material in our database. And the energy signature, it's operating on principles that shouldn't work. Calm down, Kelp Captain Voss ordered. There must be a rational explanation. Raya, any response to our hails? Nothing yet, Captain. But the signal patterns suggest they are using some form of radio waves, actual radio waves, like from the ancient texts. Zilak watched as the crew became increasingly agitated. First Officer Paxmora was arguing with Security Chief Dorn Krell about whether to raise shields. Engineer Sora Vix was practically bouncing off the walls, rambling about theoretical propulsion systems. Even the usually stoic Captain Voss was showing signs of stress, her scales shifting through various shades of orange. Visual contact in 5 minutes, the computer announced. Listen up, Captain Voss's voice cut through the chaos. Whatever this is, we are officers of the galactic unity. We will handle this with dignity and professionalism, even if it's humans, Zilak offered helpfully, earning a glare from all 4 of the captain's eyes. Visual contact established, the computer declared. The main view screen activated, and every being on the bridge fell silent. There it was, a ship, unlike anything they'd ever seen. Its design seemed to ignore every principle of aesthetic harmony the galactic unity held dear. It was all sharp angles and exposed metal, with massive engines that seemed far too large for its frame, and emblazoned across its hull were markings that the computer was already translating. USS Aurora, United Earth Space Force. Well, Zilak said, breaking the stunned silence, I guess this means all those human jokes I have been collecting might actually come in handy. Officer Wren, Captain Voss said without taking her eyes off the screen, if you make even one joke about their lack of scales, I will personally eject you into space. Message incoming, Raya announced, her spots flashing rapidly. It's an ancient standard. Audio only. A voice filled the bridge, a sound that would change their civilization forever. Galactic Unity vessel, this is Captain Sarah Wright of the USS Aurora. Hope we didn't startle you too badly. Mind if we pull alongside? We come in peace, and we brought snacks. Zilak looked around the bridge at his fellow officers. Security Chief Krell had fainted. Kelp was frantically taking readings while muttering impossible over and over. And Captain Voss looked like she'd just swallowed a live Plutonian eel. The humans brought snacks, Zilak said thoughtfully. You know, Captain, this might be the start of a beautiful friendship, or the most awkward first contact in history. Either way, I can't wait to see what happens next. While Captain Voss composed herself for their response to the human vessel, Science Officer Kelp Tin frantically pulled up the ancient records on his datapad, his translucent fingers trembling as he read aloud to the bridge crew. According to the archives of the First Era, he began, his voice quavering, humans were supposedly encountered by our early space explorers over 2,000 cycles ago. But here's why we thought they were myths. Every single piece of evidence vanished during the Great Data Purge of the Second Era. The what now? Zilak asked, leaning forward in his chair. Oh, right, they don't teach this in basic training anymore, Raya chimed in, her bioluminescent spots pulsing with scholarly excitement. The Great Data Purge happened when our ancestors tried to upgrade the entire galactic unity network at once. Something went wrong, and we lost nearly all our historical records. What remained was so fragmented that it read like fiction. Captain Voss paced the bridge, her head crest twitching. So you are telling me that humanity's existence was erased by what amounts to a failed software update? And more or less, Kelp confirmed, scrolling through more records. The remaining fragments painted an impossible picture. Listen to this, humans require constant water intake, yet their bodies are mostly water already, or this one, despite having no natural armor, they willingly jump out of perfectly functional aircraft for entertainment. That can't be right, Security Chief Krell said, having finally regained consciousness. No species could be that. Illogical. Zilak gestured at the view screen, where the USS Aurora still waited for their response. Well, their ship design certainly supports the theory that they don't think like we do. Look at those engines. They are practically asking for a catastrophic overload. Here's the most interesting part, Kelp continued, his nervous system visibly pulsing through his transparent skin. The fragments suggest humans went from primitive atmospheric flight to faster-than-light travel in less than 200 cycles. Our scientists marked that claim as definitive proof that the records were fictional. Such rapid advancement should be physically impossible. Captain Voss stopped pacing. Yet here they are, broadcasting on radio waves like they just don't care about proper communication protocols. Speaking of protocols, First Officer Mora interjected. What exactly are we supposed to do here? The standard first contact procedures don't cover meeting species that are supposed to be myths. Actually, Raya said, checking her console, according to these transmissions, they have already made first contact with 12 other species. They are treating this like a routine meeting, and they really did bring snacks, something called potato chips and candy bars. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a ceremonial blade. You know what this means, Zilak said, breaking the uncomfortable silence. Every single childhood story about humans might be true, even the one about them taming giant aquatic predators and making them perform tricks for food. Or the one about them strapping explosives to their ships to make them go faster, Kelp added, his skin turning slightly pale. Don't forget walking on their moons before they had proper space travel, Raya said. My parent always told me that one was absolutely made up. Captain Voss raised all 4 hands for silence. Enough. Clearly, we are about to rewrite our entire historical understanding. But right now, we have a ship full of supposedly mythical beings waiting for our response, and they are probably wondering why we are taking so long to answer. At least they brought snacks, Zilak offered helpfully. That's a good sign, right? Mythical monsters don't usually bring snacks. The captain shot him a look that could have frozen a star. Officer Wren, your talent for stating the obvious continues to astound me. Raya, open a channel. Let's make history. Again, apparently Captain Voss straightened her head crest one final time and nodded to Raya. Open communications. USS Aurora, this is Captain Naira Voss of the Galactic Unity vessel Starweaver. We acknowledge your greeting. The human captain's voice came through again, surprisingly warm and informal. Fantastic. I was starting to worry our translator was broken. You folks took quite a while to respond. We were consulting our historical records, Voss replied diplomatically, shooting a warning glare at Zilak before he could make another comment about myths and legends. Oh right, the great data purge thing. We read about that in our preparation briefings. Real shame about all that lost history. But hey, that's why we are here now, right? To make new history together. The casual way the human captain mentioned their greatest technological disaster made several crew members bristle. Captain Voss's scales shifted to a deeper orange. You seem very well informed about our civilization, Captain Wright, she said carefully. Sure are. We have been studying you folks for years. Your transmission security could use some work, by the way. Those encrypted channels aren't nearly as encrypted as you think. Security Chief Krell jumped to his feet. They have been spying on us? Captain, this is an act of aggression. Whoa there, big guy, Captain Wright's voice carried a hint of amusement. Not spying, just gathering preliminary data. Standard procedure before making contact with any advanced civilization. You know how it is. No, Captain Voss said firmly. We don't know how it is. In the Galactic Unity, we respect boundaries. A new voice joined the transmission. Actually, according to our monitoring of your Group 9 border patrols, you have been scanning Zentari space for the past 3 cycles. Voss's scales went pale. Engineer Sora Vix dropped her toolkit with a clang. That's classified information, First Officer Mora sputtered. Not to worry, Captain Wright said cheerfully. Everyone spies on everyone. It's practically a galactic tradition. Now, about those snacks, we have got some amazing things called Twinkies that will absolutely change your life. Zilak watched in fascination as Captain Voss's scales cycled through colors he didn't even know they could produce. She was gripping the command chair so hard her knuckles had gone white. Captain Kelp whispered urgently, their ship just scanned us again. Their technology. It's beyond anything in our database. Those engines aren't just oversized, they are operating on principles we thought were theoretical. They are making a mockery of everything we stand for, Security Chief Krell growled. Captain, we should raise shields and… Already got your shield frequencies mapped, Captain Wright interrupted. Really interesting modulation pattern you are using. Mind if we suggest some improvements? That did it. Captain Voss's scales turned bright red. This is unacceptable. You can't just scan whatever you want and offer snacks like this as some casual social call. Actually, came the reply, still irritatingly cheerful. Watch this. The entire bridge crew gasped as a small object materialized on the captain's command chair. It was brightly colored and had strange markings on it. What is it? Raya asked, her spots flashing in alarm. Scanning, Kelp reported. It appears to be some sort of preserved food item in metallic packaging. The label says Snickers. That's impossible, Krell shouted. Our shield harmonics should prevent any form of matter transmission. Oh yeah, about that, Captain Wright said. Those harmonics are based on the Uvian equations, right? Turns out there's a much simpler way to calculate interdimensional transfer states. We figured that out about 50 years ago. The math is pretty basic once you stop overthinking it. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. This supposedly mythical species hadn't just matched their technology, they'd surpassed it, apparently while watching old Earth entertainment broadcasts about something called cat videos. Zilak, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly started laughing. Not just a chuckle, but full-blown, antenna-shaking laughter. Officer Wren, Captain Voss, snapped. This is hardly the time for. No, Captain, you don't understand, Zilak gasped between laughs. They are not threatening us. They are pranking us. What? Several voices asked simultaneously. Think about it. They could have approached with a whole fleet, but they sent one ship. They have been watching us for years but chose to reveal themselves by broadcasting on ancient radio frequencies. They can beam through our shields, but what do they send? Snacks. A new voice came over the comm. Finally, someone gets it. Pay up, Sarah. I told you the purple one would figure it out first. Captain Wright's laughter joined the transmission. You are absolutely right, Officer Wren. This whole approach was actually suggested by our cultural integration team. They said a formal diplomatic contact would just freak you out, but if we showed up acting like friendly goofballs with cool tech and snacks, you'd break the tension and prove you weren't a threat, Zilak finished. Because what kind of advanced hostile species brings candy to a first contact? Exactly. Plus, we really do want to share our snack food with the galaxy. It's kind of our thing. Captain Voss looked from the Snickers bar to the view screen and back again. Finally, her scales settled into a more natural orange hue. You mean to tell me that this entire situation, which had my crew on the verge of panic, was orchestrated as some sort of interstellar icebreaker? Yep, Captain Wright sounded delighted. Is it working? The captain picked up the Snickers bar, examining it carefully. That depends, Captain Wright. Are all humans this? Unconventional in their diplomatic approaches? Oh no, sometimes we are much worse. Wait until you hear about how we made first contact with the Regellians. It involved something we call a conga line after lengthy security protocols and several more materialized snacks. A delegation from the USS Aurora boarded the Starweaver. Captain Voss had insisted on proper procedures, even though the humans had proven they could probably just teleport wherever they wanted. Zilak stood with the welcome committee, trying not to stare at the 5 humans who stepped through the airlock. They were exactly as the ancient records described, yet somehow even more bizarre in person. They are so squishy-looking, he whispered to Raya, who elbowed him in the ribs. Captain Wright led the human group. Her pale skin and red-head fur hair. Kelp had insisted they call it standing out starkly against their dark uniforms. She was grinning, showing off flat teeth that seemed utterly useless for proper eating. Your ship is beautiful, she said, looking around. Though you might want to adjust your artificial gravity. It's about 0.2 degrees off optimal. Engineer Sora Vix fainted. Sorry, Captain Wright winced. Our science officer, Dr. Thomas Lee, gets excited about technical details. We are trying to teach him social boundaries. A tall human with round-seeing devices glasses, according to the briefing, waved enthusiastically. Your quantum field harmonics are fascinating. Have you considered reverse polarizing the Tom, Captain Wright interrupted. What did we say about leading with quantum mechanics? Right, sorry. Snacks first, physics later. Captain Voss's scales had finally settled into a neutral orange as she led the group to the conference room. "I must admit, Captain Wright, your species is nothing like what we expected." "Call me Sarah." "And yeah, we get that a lot. Most species expect us to be either terrifying warriors or ultra-serious diplomats. The truth is, we are more like space tourists with really cool tech and a burning desire to try every kind of food in the galaxy." The human delegation settled around the conference table, pulling out various colorful packages. Zelak watched in horror as they casually tore open the sealed containers with their teeth. "You actually put those things in your mouth?" he asked before he could stop himself. "These things?" "Oh man, wait until we tell you about hot sauce," said a human woman who'd introduced herself as Lieutenant Maya Palmer. "We literally eat plants that cause pain because we think it's fun." Security Chief Krell, who had insisted on attending, looked like he was about to have a seizure. "You intentionally consume harmful substances for entertainment." "That's nothing," Dr. Lee chimed in. "Sometimes we drink liquid that temporarily impairs our neural functions, also for fun." "And you achieved faster than light travel?" Kelp asked incredulously. "Mostly because we really wanted to see what was out here," Sarah explained. "That, and we got tired of movies about aliens always coming to Earth. We decided to do the visiting for a change." The next hour was a crash course in human culture that left the Starweaver's crew alternately amazed and concerned for the human sanity. They learned about something called social media, where humans voluntarily shared personal information with millions of strangers. They heard about extreme sports which seemed to involve finding increasingly creative ways to almost die. And they discovered pizza, which the humans described with such reverence that it might have been a religious experience. "Let me get this straight," Captain Voss said, holding up one of the many snacks now scattered across the table. "This chocolate contains substances that would kill some of your pets, but you eat it anyway." "Well, we made sure it's safe for your species before bringing it," Sarah assured her. "We are crazy, not irresponsible." "Debatable," Dr. Lee muttered, earning another glare from his captain. Zelak, who had been systematically trying every snack available, suddenly made a discovery. Captain Voss, you have to try this one. They call it a Sour Patch Kid, and it actually attacks your taste buds." "It doesn't actually attack," Sarah began, but stopped as she watched Zelak's expression change from shock to delight. "Amazing. It starts as an assault and ends as a treat. Your species' weaponized candy." See, Lieutenant Palmer nudged Captain Wright. "Told you the purple ones always get it. They understand the joy of slightly dangerous snacks." As the cultural exchange continued, Zelak noticed something remarkable. Captain Voss's scales had shifted to a shade of orange he'd never seen before, one that indicated not just acceptance, but genuine enjoyment. She was actually having fun. "You know," she said to Sarah, carefully unwrapping her third Snickers bar, "when I woke up today, I never imagined I'd be discussing the cultural significance of something called memes with a species from our ancient legends." "Oh, just wait," Sarah grinned. "We haven't even shown you cat videos yet." The news of humanity's existence spread through the galactic unity like a quantum wave collapse. Within days, the Starweaver's encounter was the only thing anyone could talk about. News feeds were flooded with speculation, analysis, and increasingly bizarre theories about these legendary beings who had suddenly appeared bearing snacks and technical advice. Zelak found himself unexpectedly promoted to human cultural liaison after a video of him enthusiastically explaining the concept of spicy food challenges to the Galactic Council went viral. His demonstration of the hot sauce dance became the most watched clip in Unity history. "I don't understand," one council member had said. "They intentionally breed plants to be painful, then compete to see who can endure the most pain, while dancing." "Exactly," Zelak had replied, his scales turning purple with pride. "Isn't it brilliant?" The Galactic Unity's scientific community was in complete disarray. Centuries of theoretical work had to be revised because, as Dr. Lee had casually mentioned, humans had found shortcuts through conventional physics by, in his words, thinking sideways and asking what if we just tried it anyway. But it violates three fundamental laws, a leading Unity physicist had protested during a public debate. "Yeah," Dr. Lee shrugged, adjusting his glasses. We got bored of those laws. Captain Voss, now celebrated as the first Unity officer to officially contact humans, found herself dealing with an unprecedented situation. The Starweaver had become a hub for human Unity relations, which meant her once orderly ship was constantly filled with humans introducing new concepts to her crew. Captain Security Chief Krell reported one morning, his scales pale with concern, the humans have introduced something called a coffee maker to the mess hall. It dispenses a stimulant beverage that appears to be mildly addictive. I'm aware, Chief Voss replied, holding her third cup of the day. Your point. They are also teaching the crew something called breakfast memes. As long as they don't bring up that Friday song again, let them proceed. The humans, true to their nature, approached interspecies relations with what they called chaotic good energy. They shared technology freely, but seemed more excited about introducing the Unity to Earth entertainment. Movie nights became a regular occurrence, though there was still heated debate about whether action films should be classified as historical documents or mass hallucinations. Then came the truly shocking revelation. What do you mean you are not the most advanced human ship? Captain Voss asked during one of her now regular meetings with Captain Wright. Sarah grinned over her coffee cup. Oh no, the Aurora is just a cultural exchange vessel. We are basically the friendly face of humanity. You know, the ones who seem slightly crazy but mostly harmless. There are more advanced ships. Way more advanced. But we figured showing up in those might seem a bit intimidating. Plus, they are not as good at parties. The implications hit Unity society like a meteor strike. The humans they'd met, with their reality-bending technology and casual disregard for physical laws, were just the tip of the cosmic iceberg. But the final irony came 6 months after first contact, when Xylac made a discovery in the newly restored historical archives. Captain Voss, he burst onto the bridge, waving a datapad. You need to see this. Officer Wren, what have we said about dramatic entrances? Sorry, but this is huge. I found out why all our records about humans were lost in the Great Data Purge. The bridge crew leaned in as Xylac pulled up the recovered files. It wasn't a failed update that erased our records, he explained, barely containing his excitement. The system was working perfectly. But when our ancestors tried to catalog human behavior and achievements, the computer flagged everything as statistical impossibilities and marked it as corrupt data. You mean Captain Voss started? Yes, the Great Data Purge happened because our systems literally refused to believe humans were real. They were so improbable that our computers deleted them to maintain logical consistency. Sarah, who had been quietly sipping coffee in the corner during her daily visit, nearly choked. Are you telling me that your entire civilization forgot about us because we were too weird to be real? Apparently Xylac nodded. The system decided that a species achieving faster than light travel through sheer stubbornness while still watching cat videos and having contests to see who could eat the spiciest foods had to be a data error. The bridge erupted in laughter, human and alien alike. Captain Voss, her scales shifting to that new shade of orange that had become common since meeting the humans, raised her coffee cup. To humanity, she declared. The species so impossible they broke our computers. To the galactic unity, Sarah responded, raising her own cup. The civilization that had to meet us twice to believe we exist. Although Xylac added with a grin, the computer is still convinced that something called TikTok has to be a mass hallucination. 1 year after first contact, Xylac Wren stood at his old sensor station on the Starweaver's bridge, preparing to give a tour to yet another group of wide-eyed Unity officials. The ship had become something of a historical landmark. Though Captain Voss insisted they still maintain regular patrol duties between diplomatic functions and cultural exchange parties. And this, he said to the assembled group, is where I first detected the human ship. Of course, now we know that they let themselves be detected because sneaking up on us would have been, in their words, rude. Is it true, one official asked, that humans have an entire division of their space force dedicated to creating new snack foods for other species? The Interstellar Culinary Corps' Xylac confirmed. Though I'd avoid their latest creation, something called nuclear hot Cheetos. Even their warning labels have warning labels. The galactic unity had changed more in the past year than in the previous century. Human influence could be seen everywhere, from the coffee shops that had sprung up on every space station to the new fashion trend of wearing what humans called Hawaiian shirts over traditional scale protective garments. The scientific community had finally stopped trying to make sense of human technology and simply accepted that some questions were better left unasked, like why human ships had cup holders in their quantum drive chambers, or how they managed to make faster-than-light engines run on something called renewable energy and optimism. Looking back, Zelak told the tour group meeting humans was the best thing that could have happened to us. They reminded us that the universe is stranger and more wonderful than our computers can categorize. They taught us that sometimes the most illogical solution is the right one, and that any problem can be solved with sufficient amounts of coffee and what they call YouTube tutorials. A flash of light interrupted his speech as a human materialized directly in front of the group, causing several officials to jump in surprise. "Sorry to interrupt," Lieutenant Palmer said cheerfully, holding up a bright package. "But Maya from the Aurora wanted you to try our latest snack invention. We call it Quantum Crunch cereal. It changes flavor depending on who's observing it." As the officials crowded around to examine this latest example of human culinary physics, Zelak couldn't help but smile. The universe had turned out to be far more interesting than any of their legends suggested. Though he had to admit, programming the Unity's computer systems to accept human activity as reality was still a work in progress. Just last week, it had marked footage of their latest extreme sport, zero-G parkour, as an impossible event and automatically deleted it. Some things, it seemed, were still too human to compute.